Hello, good afternoon. Many thanks for choosing us here on GBC News. We're also live on GTV. This is News Hour. My name is Abdul Hayi Momin. In our very first story, since 1960, a dozen heads of state across sub-Saharan Africa have held office for more than 30 years. Incumbents have increasingly used so-called constitutional coups to secure longer terms, debasing constitutionalism. In some countries, pressure from civil society and regional blocs have successfully halted leaders' attempts to extend their rule. Here are snipers of an exclusive chat with the Dean, Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Dr. Vladimir Ntwidanso, on what has been termed as the so-called third term syndrome. Well, I'll bring you that story subsequently, but in other security stories, Ghana has had security challenges lately as kidnap cases surge nationwide. There have been reported kidnappings on the country's territorial waters and in various communities on a daily basis. The most recent one being the kidnapping of a Lands Commission employee in Kofodia in the eastern region. This trend has heightened fears among members of the public, some of whom are asking whether security measures instituted to tackle criminal activities are not effective. Again, this interview with a security analyst, Dr. Vladimir Ntwidanso, cautioned Ghanaians to be security conscious. He also shared some peculiar security tips with the public. I'm sure.
Urbanization, globalization, and population growth, industrialization, all go with such insecurity issues. Kidnappings, extortions, killings, whatever, they all go with, as we modernize, these things are becoming more and more. And again, when you have a discord between the number of policemen you have and the structure of the police vis-a-vis societal growth, you will get these things. When you have the judicial system overburdened with such issues, you have this situation. And again, when you have a lot of indiscipline in the country, where many more people have arms, many more people are just scoundrels waiting to just pounce on the innocent. And again, finally, when you have a society in which many more people are not security conscious, that the essence of security is like beyond them. You and I believe that there is somebody called the police. They should take care of my security. That's wrong. The police are as useless as paper if you and I don't help them. So if somebody is kidnapped, they must get information before they can get the person. Everywhere I have been, whether in Rwanda or whatnot, you open the television and you see tips on security. Tips on security. I go from church to church, my churches around, to give them church security. These are some of the petty things. The thieves know this, and so they are advanced, one step ahead of you in the church, in the car parks, and they are smart. They watch you are holding a child. At times you have 2, 3 children, you are holding them, crossing. They know, they see you. Somebody just pricks the child, like, hey, mommy, and then you leave one, you leave the other, and then they pick your bag and they are gone. These are things we need to be talking about, tidbits about security. Don't leave. And that one, when the police are unable to do it, then you start insulting the police.
From security, we turn our attention to matters concerning politics because the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Mr. John Boadu, says the economy under the watch of the former president, Mr. John Dramani Mahama, was not robust and had to be put on life support with assistance from the IMF. According to him, inflation spiked to 14%, with growth rates taking a nosedive through 3.7% in 2016, as against an average rate of 7% from 2017 to 2019. Mr. John Boadu said this at a press conference here in Accra.
The most barefaced assertions he makes in his remarks at the public event hosted by Sir Tepe is that he inherited a bad economy. Of course, he did, from himself. Having ruined the economy he presided over as vice president to the late President Wells, he stood before Parliament at his swearing-in and proudly admitted that he has run the economy down to the bone. This was an economy that had been moved from epic, with substantial debt relieved, grown from 3.7% in the year 2000 to over 8% by 2008 when we handed over to the Mills Mahama administration, including newly discovered oil in commercial quantities and a revamped cocoa sector and the provision of numerous social intervention programs. Former President Mahama actively oversaw the worst crisis ever to hit our financial sector and presided over the rot that, if not for Akufo-Addo administration's intervention, will have brought the whole financial sector on its knees. His negligence has cost over 21 billion Ghana cedis of public resources to correct. Meanwhile, he turned judgment debt payments into a cottage.
Well, we'll stay with politics because former President John Dramani Mahama has stated that the National Democratic Congress will be very vigilant at the polling stations during the next general elections in 2024. Speaking in a radio interview in Techiman in the Bono East region on Tuesday, September 7, 2021, Mr. Mahama said the National Democratic Congress has learnt its lessons from the 2020 elections. His statements has generated varied reactions from the public, with some looking at the political overtones.
Ballot paper. For everyone that we arrested, one ballot paper, about 100 we didn't arrest. It even me assure say there was a lot of stuffing of the ballot boxes. We share bigger machine also. Now share ballot papers all box. Ballot papers no better also change. Number will be there also. Until it was a very election ultimately say UM. You understand? But Supreme Court make one so until for the peace of this nation. You now recommend to say your man Penny Nana Akufo-Addo. He is the recognized leader. We've accepted the Supreme Court judgment. But the point is, you see, we be a BCP now audition, sir. Yes, the 2020 elections, no, it will be won or lost at the polling station.
I see.
And the polling station, they better do or die.
Ah.
When cars all die, be die. They better do or die. The right thing must be done.
2024.
2024 polling station, and you better win the election, no. Yan train and ma yan kase collation center and the Supreme Court baby collation center and a polling station. We will do everything to make sure that the election is free, transparent, and fair. Yan person we are MPP for. We don't want to cheat them. Yan say yan person will be a baby. Mabani yan French him.
And you just heard former President John Mahama in an interview with a radio station in the Bono region. And we have also been joined on the line by a retired soldier who is also a politician, General Joseph Nunu Mensah, to look more into this matter. So thank you so very much, General, for joining us here on GBC News. First of all, we did hear clearly the former president use the phrase, do or die. There are those who have compared this phrase to that which was condemned ahead of the 2012 elections when President Akufo-Addo, who was then candidate for the New Patriotic Party, used the phrase, all die be die. Now our leaders are talking about death in their statements relative to elections and how their party supporters should watch this. How concerned should we be, sir?
Thank you very much. We have had this Fourth Republic since 1993. By the end of the second term, each of the two major parties, NCP, will have done 16 years. Altogether, 32 years. What we will be concerned with is how far has Ghana developed over the last almost 32 years. And if you ask me my own view, I would say very little. We had very high expectations But so far, the result has been very abysmal. But you see, the politicians come to power, both in the NPP, to seek power, not for the good of society. They would have up there. So I've actually worked with the NDC, and I've worked with the NPP. So that the youth of this country, to whom the future belongs, are in the wilderness. They can't find jobs. Even food is not a problem in Ghana. This time, normally in Ghana's history, I was born in Winnipeg. We think of fish and produce from the farms. But food prices are still pretty high. And if we don't take care, you're going to have a very serious problem later in the year and early next year. But this, to me, should be what should concern politicians. Not about getting power for passing. This is what is happening. So that you have threat coming from the NPP, you have threat coming from the NDC. It doesn't speak well of our future political development. What I advise that we should be very careful not issuing threats. What this is, if we don't take care, you can overstep, and suddenly you are in trouble. You know, I mean, when I look at the situation with Guinea last 2 days, and some young people supporting the coup, that Pedagogado condemned as head of ECOWAS, you can find that the youth really are desperate in our family, in Africa as a whole. The politicians are not concerned about it. What they're concerned about is getting power and living well.
General, you have just told us that you have worked with both the MPP and the NDC, and these are the two parties that have ruled Ghana since the introduction of the Fourth Republic in 1993. Now, General, having worked with both parties, are you able to tell us what it is that accounts for the disbelief, the distrust in the electoral processes when these parties find themselves in opposition?
The line isn't very clear, but you know, I'm just looking at the performance of the MPP and the NDC for the last almost 32 years. And what I've actually found that, you know, cheating, because the man was talking about cheating and so on. I agree with him. But stop cheating. Because cheating goes on all over the place. In every election, even in America, it takes place. You don't realize. But what actually concerns me very much, the fact that issues facing young people, especially in this country, are not addressed. You know, and people come to power to seek their own personal well-being. This should stop. Because the youth of the country are desperate now. I got into the army in 1960 with an oil. They people with 2 degrees, they can't find jobs. But when they get power, both NDC and NPP don't address these issues. And if we don't take it, what happened in Guinea will easily happen here and happen in the sub-region. But the problems they are facing over there in our sub-region are similar. You have thousands of young people in this country jobless. You have unemployment all over the place. Indiscipline. You know, people are getting tired of democratic rule. I was in town yesterday at Tudu in Accra, and something like, you know, I couldn't just understand. I don't go to Accra these days, but it's hell driving on our roads. And discipline is unbelievable. At the top lights at Tudu, a few years from the MTTU, the lights are not working. No policeman was there. From the MTTU in Accra, nobody cared. And the chaos there was unbelievable. Now, Ghana is becoming an ungovernable state. So we get power, and then we get our land cruisers. And nobody cares about what happens to Ghana. So I'm saying that if politicians don't wake up and address the issues facing young people, one day they'll take the law into their hands. The young man who sees power in Guinea, I'm not sure that he's 40 or beyond, around 40. And yet, the young people in this country, especially people like me, my 80s, to manage Ghana for them, they go around saying that the politicians should fix the country. They won't fix it. NPT won't fix it. The Mama wouldn't fix it. Zakubado won't fix it. They should fix the country themselves because the country belongs to them. In the late 30s, early 40s, the future is there. It's not mine, which is almost at the tail end of my life. So don't expect me to go and build Ghana for you. Instead of asking them to save Ghana, Nkrumah came to power in 1940. No, he actually found a CP in 1949. He was only 40 years old. Macron came to power in France, less than 40 years old. There are many leaders today in Europe, less than 40, in the 30s. So I'm saying that if young people want to build Ghana, they should take Ghana and fix it themselves. But for these will never fix it. What I have seen, they won't fix it. They can't fix it. They won't fix it.
We'll have to find time to have this discussion in more detail, and that was General Nunu Mensah, a former soldier and a politician, joining us to look at the issue of the statement "do or die," which was recently made by former President John Mahama in an interview with a radio station in the region. Now we'll move on to our earlier story. Since 1960, a dozen heads of state across sub-Saharan Africa have held office for more than 30 years. Incumbents have increasingly used so-called constitutional coups to secure longer terms, debasing constitutionalism. In some countries, pressure from civil society and regional blocs have successfully halted leaders' attempts to extend their rule. Here are snipers of an exclusive chat with the Dean, Ghana Armed Forces Command and Staff College, Dr. Vladimir Nchudansu, on what has been termed as the third term syndrome.
Presidential succession is one of the most contentious issues in Africa. This transition is being challenged by the presidential third term syndrome. The prospect of a third term is frequently met with suspicion as it generates intense debates and scrutiny by civil society and the international community.
And technically, it's difficult to know what we mean by the third term syndrome. The point is, especially within the Francophone countries, what happens is that a lot of the incumbents, when they are in their second term in office, decide to change the constitution. For example, in Niger, in Togo, in Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, and other places, what they do is, it used to be a 7-year term of two terms. So when they are in their second 7-year term, they said, this thing is weird, it's not good for us. All around us is 5 years or 4 years. So let's change our constitution and bring it to 5 years. And almost all of them change it to 5 years. So then it means when he finishes his second term, the old constitution is gone. The new set is a 5-year term. So technically he has a right to go again. So it's a problem we need to interrogate and give meaning to. Is it a third term really? Is it a second term? Is it a first term? And it has not been interrogated properly, and it's bringing about this kind of friction.
Sub-Saharan Africa is home to many of the world's longest ruling heads of state. Extending the incumbencies of sitting presidents beyond the limits set by their constitutions has come to be regarded as one of the greatest concerns for the future of democracy in Africa. It undermines the ability to demand accountability and allows personalized politics to develop.
Incumbent will make sure he doesn't buy the bait. The best you can do is to be able to get somebody who is just like you, believes in your vision and mission, continues your job, and you will be satisfied. But if you insist to make it believe, of course there are several people who come around you and say, the people like you. Our research shows that you can continue. Wrong. I don't believe that any good Democrat will serve 2 terms and believe that I have to continue. Except if the Constitution allows you in several other places where there's no term limit.
While the UN and the African Union urge member states to respect their constitutions and condemn coup attempts, they have done little to limit presidentialism in cases such as Togo and Sudan, and even less in Zimbabwe, Angola, and Guinea, whose presidents have held on to the reins for more than 3 decades.
It's rather unfortunate, but multilateralism is such that it grinds slowly. It's made up of a number of states, each one and their own ideas and whatnot. And so sovereignty, interference, and whatnot. But of course, they could have done better. They are always reactive to issues instead of being proactive. But in AU and ECOWAS, we are reactive. The thing happens, then we say, yes, yes, yes. The protocol doesn't allow you to do this, so revert. But it has happened already. So you're right. AU and ECOWAS need to be more proactive to avert the storms rather than try to do makeshift kind of arrangement when the storm has hit already.
Recounting unfolding events in Guinea, special forces overthrew the government of President Alpha Conde on Sunday, adding another apparent coup d'etat to the nation's lengthy history of military takeovers. President Conde was re-elected for a controversial third term in office after changing the constitution to allow him to stand again despite violent protests from the opposition. The military is promising a unity government. Can we trust them to deliver?
If we have very good civil-military relationship in a country, these things don't happen. A coup doesn't happen. That's what we need to do in our own country. Have a very good civil-military relationship. One, two, build and crystallize our democracy. No coup will happen.
In Conakry, glee seemed to overshadow criticism. Video showed people cheering from their balconies. But what are the lessons to be learned, if any?
When your neighbor has his beard burning, you better fetch water and stay by your water. But it doesn't mean you have to wait for...
We certainly will bring you the fuller version of that story on GBC News. It's a very detailed report on the situation in sub-Saharan Africa regarding leaders who stay in power over the period constitutionally accepted. We'll move on to other stories locally now, because a 10-bed capacity isolation and treatment center for COVID-19 has been inaugurated at the Pantang Hospital. The facility, an initiative of the National COVID-19 Trust Fund, complements the construction of COVID-19 isolation and treatment centers in Greater Accra. Authorities at the Pantang Hospital say the hospital can work better with the needed tools and consumables while the safety of patients is protected.
I'm here with suspected COVID cases will all be referred to this center for treatment. So I think it's going to make our work easier for us in terms of quality of care. We are not going to miss them with people who will come here with other conditions. So it's going to enhance quality of care here. We are grateful to the COVID-19 National Trust Fund. Like we said, we may need their support to make the place operationalized. The oxygen we spoke about is very important. We also may need an access route for the ambulance that become for patients here. So as they have helped us, if they can also support us in that direction, will be great.
With issues concerning health, and that's because data from the National Tuberculosis Control Program indicates that more than 12,000 adults were diagnosed with tuberculosis and put on treatment in 2020. In the same year, 591 children were diagnosed with the disease. The data also reveals that 5 Ghanaians die daily from tuberculosis. Well, this came up at a stakeholders meeting to strengthen the TB response and also place TB high on the national agenda.
Tuberculosis is a contagious bacterial disease caused by the bacterium Mycobacterium tuberculosis. It attacks the lungs and is referred to as pulmonary TB. It can also affect any other organ in the body, in which case it is called extrapulmonary TB. This type is not as infectious as that which affects the lungs. Pulmonary TB is transmitted from a sick TB patient to an uninfected person through coughing, singing and sneezing. The risk of contracting TB increases with the frequency and duration of contact with people who have the disease. The cardinal symptom of pulmonary TB is a cough lasting 2 weeks or more. Other symptoms are weight loss, tiredness, night sweats, chest pain and cough with blood-stained sputum. The National TB Control Program identifies inadequate funding, inadequate diagnostic equipment, low OPD screening, stigma, and recently the COVID-19 pandemic as gaps in the TB response in Ghana. From January to June this year, about 100 TB patients have developed resistance to the TB drug. The program manager at the National TB Control Program, Dr. Edusei Poku, said in 2020 they had a target to screen and diagnose 22,000, but were able to achieve only 12,446 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Launching a project that seeks to put TB high on the political agenda in the country, the National TB Ambassador, Ehunabo Brimpra Ajinsem, called for more attention and investment in TB control.
Every day, at least 5 Ghanaians are dying every day. When it comes to tuberculosis, there's no age like COVID. They're not sure whether case can be detected or not. No. As for tuberculosis, we all know no boundary for age, no class, nothing. And yet, for some strange reason, we are not giving the support that a very hard-working staff need.
The board chairman of the Stop TB Partnership, Mr. Kwesi Afre, said civil society groups are ready to do anything to make Ghana a TB-free country.
This project is taking TB to the office of the president. He is the one that brought TB to us as a target from the United Nations. We are carrying it back to him. Before we get to him, we want to meet the Minister for Finance. We want to meet the Minister for Health. We want to meet Parliament. We want to meet the Speaker of Parliament. They are not talking about TB. They are talking about COVID. They need to start talking about TB. It is killing members of their constituencies. They need to allocate budget for it. So we are going to the offices. We are taking TB to Parliament. We are taking TB to the Ministry of Health. We are taking TB to the national budget, for that matter, the head of budget, the Minister for Finance. We are taking TB to the...
Although preventable and now curable, TB has in the past few decades taken the lives of close to 15 million people. There is therefore a call to action to stop TB now. About $25 million is needed to help in the fight against TB.
From 13th to 17th September 2021, at least 30 communities will be affected by an interruption in water supply in the western parts of the Greater Accra region. The Ghana Water Company Limited, in a statement, said its engineers will be replacing some faulty valves on the main 900-millimeter transmission pipelines, which impedes water flow and causes serious challenges in the distribution lines. The statement further says that engineers will take advantage of the shutdown to install some electromagnetic meters at the water treatment plant, which will help in the company's drive to reduce non-revenue water. Ahead of the temporary cut in water supply, the Ghana Water Company is assuring the general public to store enough water for consumption. Joining us via phone is the Communications Director of the Ghana Water Company Limited, Mr. Stanley Marty, who will give us an update on the interruption of water supply in these selected communities. Thank you so very much, Mr. Marty, for joining us here on GBC News. Well, first of all, we do understand that some engineering works need to be done to improve upon your services, especially to the areas which have been listed in your press release. But are there any other factors that led to this decision?
Yes, so we have looked at everything, yes, everything. So there are some leakages
Mr. Marty, your line is breaking, and we hardly can hear you. If you do not mind, reposition yourself so that the good people of Ghana, especially those people in the areas that will be affected, can hear you. So now that you have moved, we would like you to return to the beginning of your answer. And I did ask a question concerning whether there are other factors that led to this decision, just apart from the fact that your engineers need to work on these pipelines.
I think the most important thing is the fact that people are not getting water, not as a result of lack of water, but as a result of some leakages and dust in the system and faulty valves. So we want to ensure that all those things are rectified, and it's essential that we shut down the treatment plant so that at least we can have all those things done in that short time, and then supply can resume. So that's about the main thing.
All right, so the statement also says that this is to shut down. The shutdown is to install some electromagnetic meters at the wastewater treatment plant, which will help in the company's drive to reduce non-revenue water. What does this mean, sir?
Okay, so currently our non-revenue water is around 43%, and just last year it was around 50%, and in the past years it's been over 50%. But even staff of Ghana Water Company Limited have been disputing the figures, because if you look at the wastage in the system, if you look at the volumes of water produced, we are able to tell that 50%, for instance, of water is going waste, especially in Accra. Then we should see Accra flooded all the time, but that is not so. So then it is essential that we look at what the challenges were, and so we realized that we needed to measure accurately the volumes of water being produced from our treatment plants. We needed also to measure accurately the volumes of water that goes into the system, the distribution system. And then, based on that, we can just suppose that with the volumes of water that we sell, and then we'll know the exact volumes of water that goes to waste. To enable us to do that, we need to install new electromagnetic meters, which we know will give us more accurate meters than the mechanical meters that we've had before. And so that is what we have stated. Let us measure accurately. Let us use a modern digital smart meter so that we can measure accurately the volumes of water that we produce. And then we can tell exactly how much the volumes of water that goes to waste. And then that will help us in reducing the waste and subsequently our non-revenue water.
To you, and I expect that I do appreciate that very, very clearly now. But I'll say in my last but one question to you, and I expect that you will summarize the answers briefly for us. First of all, we do know that we live in times where we are expected to wash hands and so on and so forth. Water is very essential, especially in these times. Now, you're cutting off 30 communities in Western Greater Accra. These communities are communities that have hospitals, that have schools, that have groups that provide essential services. Do you have special plans to keep these essential places, so to speak, with regular water, even as you embark on this exercise?
Yes, exactly so. And the PRC regulations, we are also entreated to do that. Okay, so we have put 3 measures. But the most important measure now is for everybody to store enough water to take care of whoever for the next 5 days when we shut the treatment plant down. So our expectation is that all essential service providers are going to store all their resources, and then every customer or every consumer or every citizen within the western part of Accra is also expected to store some water to last at least 4 or 5 weeks.
Right.
Now the other measure is to have to make water companies available in times of need. So account centers have been provided to those managing water within the essential service institutions, so that once they need water, they will inform us via our call center, and then we'll make sure they get water immediately.
All right, Mr.
Now, there are some police tanks also within the system, and we are also going to fill those police tanks, make sure they always have water to sell to the community. So everything is
All right.
control.
Mr. Martin, we'll have to end it here, but before you go, so this is for Western Greater Accra. Is the same exercise going to be extended to other parts of Accra subsequently?
When we have similar challenges, we do that.
Right, thank you very much. And that was the communications director of the Ghana Water Company, Mr. Stanley Mate, giving us more details of the intended engineering works that will take place in Western Greater Accra, which will affect 30 communities and the water supply in these communities in the next 2 days, from 13th to 17th of September. We'll move on to other stories now, because Ghanaian-born, New York-based photographer Paul Nelson has captured hearts over the world with his dream of establishing a library and learning resource center for Ghanaian and African photographers who are unable to access such knowledge on the continent. After his story was shared by photoblog Humans of New York on social media, he has managed to raise over $1 million from crowdfunding to fund the project. Paul's dream project, which will be known as DECAN, meaning to take the lead, has so far collected 30,000 books for the library project. Paul Nelson, the Kumasi-born filmmaker with a degree in industrial art, started photography as a career only 4 years ago, and he sees the job as a medium of expression to solve the problems. He joins us now via Zoom to tell us more about his activities. Great to have you here, Paul. I'm excited that you're joining us via Zoom. Tell us, first of all, we've heard about your story, but for those who may have been hearing about you for the very first time, your journey has been a topsy-turvy kind of journey. Share your experiences with us very briefly.
Thank you for having me. It's been a joy to see how my country has rallied behind me in my journey of setting up the first and the largest photo library in Africa, and as well as a learning center for other people. Yeah, I've had quite a journey from being going to Kumasi Academy to Kane University and to coming to US to study filmmaking and photography. And for me, it's just solving problems. You know, if I had these books in Ghana, things would have been easier for me in terms of solving problems and becoming a better photographer. So that was the reason and the main reason behind me starting up this library and collecting all these books.
But tell me about the DECAN project itself. So where did the idea even emanate from, and how did you get to this point? You tell us about that as well.
So, you know, when I came to New York to study, I was going to school almost 7 times a week. I picked a lot of courses because it was a privilege for me to be here. And again, I wanted my friends. I have friends back at home. I have Nick, Gerard, and all these friends back at home. And always I had this in mind that, you know, based on the experience I had here, people have to have these experience. I always say that my coming to America has to be useful to other people. So I started collecting African photo books specifically, and then it grew up to become a whole collection of people donating, and I constantly buying these books and bringing it to Ghana.
Paul, when you started this journey, you asked for the public, people to help, to fund it. But I'm sure you never really were thinking about $1 million. Are you surprised to the amount of love and contributions from around the world?
Yes, I'll be honest with you. I didn't expect to have. Actually, this morning I checked that it was one. It's still climbing up. It's 1.2 as of this morning, and it shows the level of enthusiasm and the level of support people have. And I mean, I've been getting a lot of interest from Ghanaians and other side of the world. People who interested know that African has to tell their story, and that is my passion. I think that I have had the privilege to be here in the US, and I think that I want other people to have that privilege, that lessons I've learned here and the education system I've been through to have it in Ghana. So I'm very grateful for everyone who contributed. And I mean, this is the tip of the iceberg. There's more coming. You know, there's a lot of conversations going on. There's a lot of discussions going on, and I'm doing everything possible best to be able to bring these resources to Ghana, and it's not a replacement of anything. It's just an addition to what is in Ghana already. The Library Board the Library Commission is doing wonderful work, bringing digital into the system. So I'm just open and willing to work with everybody to make this a dream for the young kid in Buakwa or Kumawu. I come from Kumawu, so I know what it means to have these things.
I'll soon be asking you how soon this project will be realized, how soon you will be coming home to do this. But will you share with us exactly where you will be locating the Decan project?
Thank you. Honestly, 2 weeks ago, I was on a film set doing a film documentary. Today, I'm here talking to you, talking about the project, and now I think be the founder of this project. So step by step, I do not know, to be honest with you, where, because we have to get a land, to build this project. And I'm in talks and I'm discussing and I'm open to listen to people. I've had some people reach out trying to help us get a place in various places. And I'm open to whatever support which will come along. I do not know, but my goal is that wherever it's situated, how do I extend it to other places? How do I partner with the Library Board? How do I partner with the education system or whoever private sector, non-profit to reach to the kid in Yendi, the kid in Bunahafun, the kid in Vuta region, and my own hometown, Kumawu. So it's not for a project for the selected few. If it was for selected few, myself, I would not be included. So I think that my goal is to spread it around Ghana and spread it around Africa. And this is something, it's not just the books, we're going to teach photography, filmmaking. I'm just bringing everything I've learned in New York to back at home. Because I always say that Ghana is my country and I love my country, and this is what I want to do.
Paul, like they say, me too out. Thank you so very much. We'll be talking to you later on, and that was Paul Listen, the photographer, taking Ghanaian photography to the world, establishing the Decan project here in Ghana. In other news, advocates for mental health and persons with disabilities say the public must desist from addressing and describing individuals with mental health conditions and physical disability by the names of their conditions. This forms part of measures to address the stigma often meted out against them. So opinion leaders from disability, religious and traditional groups, social welfare and mental health authority have engaged on developing positive language to address such persons. The objective is to make them feel belonged and boost their self-esteem. We'll take a break. More stories ahead. Esther will be here.